please welcome our moderator for this host, Anshul Bhatt, the Head of Sales for Americas for the OSS BU. Thank you very much, Anshul. Next, our special guest speaker from Tech Mahindra, Ahmed Bilal, the SVP and GM for Business Head of Network Services for the Americas, and Faiq Khan, the SVP for Sales for the OSS BU. I'll hand over to you, Anshul. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James. Hello, welcome, Ahmed, to Rakuten. Good to be here. And hey, Faiq, how are you?
Lovely to be here.
So, folks, we are going to talk about AI-powered rollouts today. Yesterday, as Faiq briefly mentioned, and we introduced some of the AI capabilities that we are working on our product side, and of course, with our partner Tech Mahindra, we are taking it to next level as a joint go-to-market. So we have Ahmed and Faiq here who would take us through some of the interesting aspects about this partnership, as well as what AI can help us in rollouts. So I'll start with you, Ahmed. What are some of the key trends that you are seeing with AI? And we all know AI is influence in the software world, but when it comes to field force and site management field, what are the key trends that you are seeing?
Right. So I think the trends are very similar across all the industry, where we look at the rollout, the modernization, any type of activities related to networks. The fact that everybody wants to achieve AI is, as an enabler, is very important. But what they are about to get to that, the journey is where the challenges are coming. So the trends are obviously in terms of when you are looking at the modernization of the network, do you still need to do manual work, or can you use and enable the AI frameworks to do that? So the trends are in that sense across every aspects of the telco, whether you look at the day 0, day 1, or day 2 life cycle. And it's all about each and every activity that is repetitive, that can be used by AI, and not just from a modular perspective, but from a cohesive perspective. So obviously, and if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I do believe that one of the biggest learnings with the use of AI and automation is around in deployment and site life cycle. We can do so much more, and that's where a lot of work has been done, even some of the joint collaboration we are doing, or in general in the rollouts, and with our Site Manager 2.0 launch. We're very proud that we have been really able to bring a lot of automation on that side.
Yes, actually, I wanted to double click on some of that. When you mentioned AI rollout, what are some key use cases that you are hearing from the industry, from some of our customers?
I mean, there are a number of features and automation we are covering, but one of the really state-of-art automation we have been able to bring is around the image processing. So site auditing as a special feature, we have been really able to automate and minimize the human intervention and really fast time to repair or any fixing required. That has been one of many features we have been able to bring. I would also even go that there is a lot of focus that how we can add more, whether it's around predictive analytics or anything. I was discussing with the product team, and we even thought that what if we can bring AR play to it? Imagine that what automation and lack of human intervention we will be able to bring to automate the whole life cycle of the site management and faster time to roll out.
Okay, that's interesting. And from you, Ahmed, I'm sure you guys are managing a lot of rollouts globally. What are some of the most impactful use cases or case studies where you found AI to be contributing and even in a positive way, in terms of rollout metrics?
Yeah, so in day 0 and day 1, which we go from all the way from site, whether you're looking at a green field or brown field, where you are identifying whether the site needs to go through a transformation from 3G, 4G, or is it being swapped, all the activities, they require a lot of back and forth. And when the back and forth happens over emails or over Excel files, that's where the single source of truth does not exist. And one of the most important use cases for the digitalization and then be able to use AI is having the single source of truth. And then in order for the sequencing of activities, that become a very important aspect. You cannot sequence the activities which you do not know how they are impacted in terms of the parallel or in terms of something that needs to be sequenced after a specific activity. If you take an example, if the transmission is not there on the site and then you start sequencing all the other activities, even though you complete all of them, but if the transport is not there, you will not be able to connect that site. You will not be able to push day zero configurations automatically. But what then AI can help you with all of that is if you have created that solution every time the digital is there, and I think that is also one of the features of Site Manager. As soon as you connect the transmission, it will come up by itself, right? So these are the few things, and especially when you go from as is towards built, there is a major swing that can happen between when you design the site at the very nominal phase as well as what was actually built. Now, how do you track through that entire journey? How many RF data sheets changed, the versions changed? All of that continues to be maintained in the single source of truth.
Can you double click on the RF data sheet bit? I mean, I didn't really,
Yeah, absolutely. So when you have a site plan and after that you need to create the entire, what type of radios are connected, how are they connected, what is the diagram. The initial activities, if you see, they would be done in Visio or AutoCAD and then all those kind of Excel sheets back and forth. And if somebody would go into the field, they would find something different and change it. Now, there may be a disconnect between what has happened. With this feature of Site Manager, it's pretty cool. Actually, you do everything and you can see all the versions from the last 7, 8, or 10. And you can even go back a year before and you can still see what was there when the site already started and then what is the site today. And that actually gives you another data point that, okay, if my site started here and every 6 months I did this upgrade, can I have not planned that on the very first time? Right? So these are very, very crucial use cases that we see in the picture.
Okay, interesting. And coming back to you, Faiq, so when it comes to AI, we do hear a lot of, trust issues, if for the lack of a better word, how do you, completely leave it all to AI? So what are,
I think it's an interesting one. We need to remain bold in our industry to adapt to this. However, the models are being trained and then they're maturing. So I think we cannot be oblivious to this fact that human intervention can be taken out on day one. I think there is a learning process of these AI models as well, and at the same time, we need to stepwise this automate. So I think in the beginning, especially with agentic approach and distributed AI models, we continue to bring human intervention less and less over time. I don't think there is a magic pill to it that we can change things on day one. So I think that's a journey we are going through. We started some of this automation 5, 6 years ago. I don't think we as Rakuten has been automating just now as much as the buzzword today is all about this. We've been doing this, so there's a lot of maturity, but human intervention it's a progressive journey that how do we minimize that.
Okay. And Ahmed, you guys have been doing rollouts across the world. So
Yeah.
let's say if a telco has to embark on this journey of AI-based rollout,
Yeah.
what would be the phases or where do one start?
Well, why I'm smiling is if you recall back in 2018-19, Tariq Amin used to beat that into us. How does the automation happen, right? It's not the end goal. So if you look at the journey on the AI, I think of it as if you're bringing up a child, it does not know. If you feed it wrong information, which is the wrong data input, it would become a rogue child. It would go in a different direction, right? So when we talk about data quality, that is exactly what you are training your models to be. It's like a child. If you expose them to multiple countries, multiple cultures, multiple type of education, they would learn through it. Similarly, if the AI is not exposed to anything or if it is exposed to the rogue data, then it would go in a different direction and the outcome may be there. It's not that the child will, if you ask a question, it's not that they won't answer, but would the answer be correct, right? So I think that is a big difference that we need to be aware of. How do you take AI? As Faiq was saying, that nothing is going to happen overnight. But has the journey started in the telcos? The answer is yes and no, right? We are still using Excel files, and we use those Excel files and create a dashboard out of it, and we think this is automation. No, that is not the automation. And if you remember, we had a big beating out of it back a few years. It's about how do you change at the source in order for you to be able to track the journey through and through. Okay? And then I just also want to answer on that question about the security. Now you need to make sure that you have created the personas in the system so that not everybody is able to go and change the core of that data. Right? Because if the data is changed at the core, then you have wrong information because you have single source of truth. So it is very important that the right people have the access to the single source of truth and then can make the changes. And then you also build check-ins that to make sure that whatever the changes are being built, we don't want to have an automation system which start deleting various events along the way and you are not able to catch it. So if you put wrong information in the single source of truth and it is connected to the live system, that it can, again, it's the example of a child, how the child grows.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I think I couldn't agree more. So you know, like.
Can I add something to it?
Sure.
I'm sorry for overstepping. I think in some of our journeys today, what is the inhibitor to achieve this? It remains that you would be surprised that in today's even modern telco world, the fragmentation of the data and data silos and lack of cloud nativity in these solutions, that how do we bring or how do we eradicate completely these Excel sheets? So still we are talking to some monolithic solutions in today's world and telco environment, which makes it very hard. Now, everybody is making a massive effort. We are progressing. Is it fast enough? To Ahmed's point, yes or no? To me, it's more a no. We should be much more faster in this adoption so that we can truly realize, the dream of the automation and the AI benefits. But something work in progress.
Okay, interesting. I'll come back to Ahmed, but before that, Faik, I would like to ask you about, so you mentioned about intelligent site audits, you mentioned about RFDS and some efficiencies. What is next in AI when it comes to site management? I mean, any dream use case you have?
We go on the side, we take a picture, we take image processing, which we believe is a level of automation to, automate and have this AI capability. I earlier mentioned and give you a sneak peek to this point already. The next version can be that there is an AR play in it. So how in an AR live environment we can faster time in deployment or in any corrections required. So that is the next level. AR and AI playing game together in our site manager. It's a little bit of a long haul shot, early stages, so don't quote me for my roadmap.
Okay,
but
so do you imagine field engineers with Vision Pros and some AR VR gadgets?
Yeah, exactly. Some special Rakuten branded spectacles doing automation live, getting instructions that what we need to do on the side, everything so that we can have very basic technical skill people doing high level of automation using the AI, AR augmentation reality.
Okay, that's an interesting sneak peek. Maybe in next MWC we'll hear more on that.
Don't hold me accountable by next World Congress, but yes, that's the ambition we have.
Awesome. Over to you, Ahmed. Any
Yeah.
next expectations or the way you see future, especially in terms of rollout and AI? How do you see it unfolding?
We can't have the conversation without bringing Gen AI into the system, right? Otherwise, we will be seen as primitive. I think the best use case is when when an engineer or a construction expert or anyone who is using that tool, they should be able to address, and they said, okay, can you pick the errors in this RFDS before I submit it? It has to be conversational. It has to be able to can you give me the best practices, 5 best practices which other RFDS engine? So the integration of the learning management into the entire ecosystem, and okay, can you give me 5 examples where the construction could go wrong, right? And then the integration of all the data points, for example, from the Google map or the pictures and so on. So it has to come to that conversational level to be able to answer the questions. And if somebody does not understand, for example, what is the difference between RFDS versus CIQ, or can you give me the 5 variations which I have seen in my current system? What are the exact use cases of what I am deploying today? That kind of knowledge, exactly as it is in our brain, right? If I've worked in 7 different companies, I know how each of those looks like, what were the challenges in them. So how do you train your AI systems to have that knowledge? So until you integrate that knowledge management system and make it conversationalist, I think that is where the pivot is going to happen rather than just clicking of the buttons.
Okay, that's an interesting future I'm looking forward to. But also, I wanted to pick your brains on, for both of you on like, okay, we are talking about telecom site management, but do you see any opportunities or are there any plans, Faiq and Ahmed, to go beyond telecom? Because a site is a site after all. So any comments on enterprise and other areas?
Enterprise. Enterprise is the next big thing, because if you look at the systems, the modernization has happened all the way on 5G. Right? Then 6G, let's talk about in 10 years or 5 years or whatever the roadmap would be. But if you look at the enterprise, they're still very legacy, right? You talk about private 5G versus Wi-Fi. There is still a debate going on whether you should have private 5G versus Wi-Fi. So bringing in these kind of solutions, and there will be a lot of greenfield deployments of private 5G. There will be a lot of deployments from the single touch, especially when you take the day 0 and day 1 rollouts and then you integrate it into day 2, to be able to not just have an autonomous operation, but can you then figure out how do you do the monetization about it, right? So I believe that the mantra we have at Tech Mahindra in terms of is very applicable across both telcos and enterprises, that we want to simplify the architecture, we just want to modernize it, and then go ahead and monetize that further, right? That's how I see enterprise.
Thank you, Ahmed. I agree. In Rakuten Symphony with Site Manager 2.0 launch, I think we're very clear that we have ruggedized our solution in the telco environment. We're working with the biggest tier ones, of course, Rakuten story, and then we are also helping some global OEMs, NEMs in massive way. Now, with Site Manager 2.0, we definitely see other verticals where we are penetrating, and we see the same ambition that why not? In energy, EV charging is a big use case where we are focused, and we are having very interesting conversations. Still, a lot of data centers are being built, and any construction or build program with our Site Manager 2.0 automation has a perfect use case, and likewise what Ahmed mentioned. So I don't see any challenge at the moment that the learnings and the maturity we have achieved, we're not able to focus on other verticals, and we see a lot of traction. Even working with one of the big tier ones in America, AT&T, we are already working with a lot of tower cos and integrating with their solutions, and we continuously see that how they want to take this solution into other verticals as well. So a lot of traction, I believe so.
Yeah, I think bringing tower cos into the equation takes the scale to other industries and
Exactly.
To a different level.
Exactly.
Okay, that was insightful. I think we are almost over time, so I just want to have this one last question where I want to get your view. So there are two aspects, right? AI for telco or telco for AI. Like obviously, telecom infrastructure is important for AI development. Also, AI is important for telecom industry to grow. So what is more important, AI for telco or telco for AI? Or both?
I don't think one in future could exist without the other, right? Because when there was no AI, there was HI, human intelligence, right? So it's now you're just complementing. So it's one thing I do want to say is that the telcos will continue to be commoditized, but at the same time, new use cases would appear. AI is becoming more and more efficient. As I was trying to give you that analogy about the child, you don't go and do the work. When you have your team member or your child, you send them to school, you enable them, so then they can go ahead and do more and more work, right? It's not one person. So similarly is AI. When you train it enough, you don't do it for AI. You start managing AI so that the AI can manage more effectively for you, right? And then telcos just need to look at that. This should not only from a technical perspective. The way I see this is the future is that it should be able to also bring together the financial information. What would be great to see is that what is the depreciation factor for these particular areas, right? I think that is where the real value will get unlocked when we connect this entire AI and take all that knowledge across the board, across finance, across technology and roadmaps, and then are able to do it. That's where the real value will be. So there is no telco without intelligence, whether artificial or
Faiq,
human.
quickly. Telco for AI or AI for telco?
See, I'll give a different spin. See, as Rakuten, we are very successful in ecosystem player. We have an OTT play, and then we came into telco. And what we have been able to achieve with our Rakuten group success in cross ecosystem play is a testament that all telcos have a big role to play, that how they can fast track AI. Now, I'm not saying one or the other is the way to go. I think it's both ways. But I strongly believe the telcos have to move very fast to monetize and help the ecosystem in much bigger play. And today, they're not moving fast enough. So I leave on that.
Okay. Any closing comments from any of you before we close out for the next session? Ahmed?
Yeah, no, I think this is great conversation. Just keep doing it and go ahead and implement the AI as much as you can in all the areas, not just day 0, day 1, day 2, but use it as much as you can, because if it's there, if that the car is there but you can't use it, then that's a separate story, right? So you might want to scale at speed with that.
That's a very cool car, by the way. I think everyone should check out Tech Mahindra booth. Okay, Faiq, any closing comments before we?
No, I think Rakuten remains a big disruptor, and we are very bold in our AI journey, and you will see from AR to AI to telco for AI, a lot of things to come, and we are very bullish about it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you very much, Faiq. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Over to James for the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big round of applause for our panelists, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Excellent session. Very enjoyable. Thank you very much, Anshul. A big thank you to Ahmed from Tech Mahindra and Faiq as well. Thank you very much for listening.